Hey, here's a tutorial on the latest version of ArchForm, version 2.2. We have a number of new features, but let's hop right into it. So the first thing that you'll see is that we have a new way to add IPR and to add gaps in between teeth. So this is especially helpful, for example, here on a lower where you have some crowding around a tooth that is rotated. And so what we may want to do is just to add a gap before we do any movements. So what I'll do is I'll come back here to stage 1. I'll say insert a goal, and I will just add 0.1 millimeters of spacing on either side of that tooth. I can actually add 0.2 millimeters just to add a little bit more space. So now you can see that when we're going through the sequence, we've added space and then we did the rotation. So this can be a very useful feature. The other thing that you'll notice is that we can adjust IPR from the occlusal view. So this was not possible in previous versions of ArchForm, but it's very useful to change IPR from this view. Finally, what you'll notice is that the IPR calculation speed is much increased. So if you're on a slower machine, or you ever had some delays when pressing these buttons, it's a completely new algorithm and it's much faster. So the next feature that we'll go through is multi-tooth selection. So you've always been able to select multiple teeth in ArchForm, but it was never possible to do, like expansion movements or to do any form of rotation. What you can do now is click on a tooth and then shift click to select another tooth. You can select as many teeth as you want, and then you can move them all together. And so what's different about this version is that each tooth is moving along its own axis. So this means that as we're expanding it out, we're actually creating some spaces in between these teeth. Second of all, we have this new multi-select window so that you can see exactly how much you're expanding the teeth. In this case, we're moving them out by 1 millimeter. The other place that this is useful is changing torque of all anterior teeth at the same time. So let's say we just want to add a consistent amount of torque. We can come in here and just add in that torque. We can adjust how much torque is added to all of these teeth. So in this case, I'm going to say 5 degrees of torque. So now you can see that that torque was added. The next thing that we're going to look at is the table view. So here, if we click on table view, we can see how much each tooth is moved at every single step. This is useful for a few things. Number one, you can look for which tooth is moving the furthest. So in this setup that we have here, this tooth is moving by 13 degrees. And so that's probably driving why we have so many stages in this case. And so that can be useful to, number one, see what's driving the number of stages, and number two, what move is going to be most challenging. Another useful feature is in staging. So what we can do here is come to the middle and say insert upper and lower goals. We can say that we want to pause all rotations until the end of treatment. So what I'll do here is I'll just type 0 for all rotations. So now all rotations are happening after stage 7. So you can see what that looks like in the sequence. We're doing all movements other than rotation, and then we're doing rotation after the goal on stage number 7. Our last feature is our export preview. So we'll click the export button, and then we can select which stage we want to export and which stage we do not want to export. We can also change the settings for just this patient before exporting it. So that can be super useful if you want to use auto packing for one type of printer versus another, if you have just one case that you're wanting to print horizontally so that maybe you can speed up the print just for this one case, or make other per patient settings adjustments. And then you can press export. So that's all the features in the latest version of ArchForm. Please let us know what other features you want in ArchForm 2.3.